Hi, everyone. In today's episode, I have the pleasure of speaking with the incredibly talented Victoria Carrington Chávez. Victoria is a Colorado native, renowned storyteller, brand strategist, and visual arts expert. With roots as diverse as her artwork, embracing Afro-Indigenous Latinx influences, Victoria is the driving force behind La Mezcla Collective and Lilac and Aspen Creative Co., a branding and marketing agency centered in communication and connection building through creative collaboration. Her graphic design skills have led her to collaborate with Northeastern University as a guest lecturer for visual storytelling. She has collaborated with notable entrepreneurs such as award-winning children's book author Alyssa Reynoso Morris and singer-songwriter and TikTok influencer Mama Knows. Her gift of storytelling has made her a sought-after keynote speaker. I met Victoria a few years ago at a public speaking event in my local area and we reconnected after I watched her most recent speech at TEDx Portsmouth this past May. Victoria's talk was incredibly moving and will be available for viewing in fall 2024. In her conversation, Victoria shares insight into her community involvement along with her most recent experience as a TEDx speaker. We delve into the importance of authenticity, breaking free from societal boxes, and the transformative power of compassion. Victoria encourages us to navigate our lives with courage. We also discuss the role of creativity in bringing beauty and connection to the world, and the bravery it takes to show up proudly with our identities and as our imperfect selves. I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. Hi, Victoria. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Madison?
I'm good. How was your week?
Oh, it was good. It was really productive and I got a lot done, but there was just some cool moments of joy and a little bit of rest. So I appreciate that.
What were some moments of joy?
So I tagged one of my favorite celebrities and in my Instagram story, and they reshared it, which was pretty cool. I maybe threw my phone out of excitement, um, and it just felt really good. It's Michelle Buteau, who's a comedian, and
Oh,
she will be the first woman and the first Black woman to do a comedy special at Radio City Music Hall. So I was just actually giving a shout out to her for her representation because it encouraged me that I could also be on stage in a different way, but on a stage no less.
yes, we'll get into that for sure about you being on stage very recently. Well, I love that she shared that. That's very exciting. And if you threw your phone, I'm glad. Did you actually have like a good case?
Yes, my phone is fine.
Yes.
It's the life of a content creator. I've got a good case. I've got the protective thing on the top. It's very well cared for.
That's good. That's important. Onto content creation. That's a big part of your career currently, right now, the work you do, correct?
Yeah, yeah, I definitely help a number of clients work in telling their authentic stories through social media. So it's been really cool to help find out who they are, who their target audience is, and who they want to connect with, and helping create metrics that are beyond just a large number of followers.
Mm.
Because I view an influencer as somebody who has impact and somebody that can influence people to take action. So whether that's five people who decide that they want to do something that is for the greater good, or whether that's 500 or 500,000. So
Mm. When did you start doing that kind of work?
so I sometimes make a joke that I've been doing social media since MySpace. Dating
That's
myself
a good one.
there, but I started really getting into it during the pandemic. I was actually
Mm.
teaching K through 8 Spanish, and I had to find new and creative ways to engage my middle school students now that we were virtual. So I started kind of learning TikTok and how to make videos, how to make quality videos, how to edit and
Mm.
do those things for social media. And that's kind of led to me when I became a freelancer to be able to kind of work with a number of organizations, nonprofits, some corporations, different brand collabs. But I just love that I really was just trying to keep my eighth graders engaged during a pandemic.
Yeah, that's a hard, like, I guess, population to like have your, I guess, content resonate with. I feel like they're the most judgmental, or can
They,
be,
they
or
can be.
hardest to impress. Yeah.
They can be. I mean, I think that they're, I like to say honest.
Mm.
Um, and sometimes honesty without compassion is brutality. So, when you're in eighth grade, you're kind of learning what honesty can be.
Yes. I'm sure you taught them some good, I guess, ways of communicating their thoughts more eloquently and less abrasively. So outside of the work
Yeah.
that you do with the creative work and the graphic design and website, I wanted to know you're very involved in the community. Can you go more into that?
Yeah, I mean, I work with a number of communities. So I am Afro, Indigenous, Latina, and so I work
Mm.
with a number of organizations. I also identify as queer and neurodivergent, and so I have a lot of intersections in my identity, and I do my best to work with organizations that support a lot of those layers, even if it's individual. There is an organization that works with neurodivergent communities in Texas that I am part of an advisory council for called Fish and Tree. I work locally in New Hampshire with a number of BIPOC led organizations. I work as a community liaison with the Center for Women in Enterprise of New Hampshire, supporting small businesses who want to grow, especially from a feminist focused lens. And um, I definitely like to show up to some good dance parties and some good pride parties. So, I mean, just the best that I can to the best of my ability. I actually did just get back from Amsterdam. Last month I was in Amsterdam with an Indigenous group who was bringing Indigenous wisdom to Earth Day. So, looking
Mm.
at Earth Day from this Indigenous lens of how we can care for Mother Earth. So, it feels like a lot, but it also feels like there's so many people that I get to help and inspire and just empower, and that's so freaking cool.
That is, yes, you're involved in so many communities, and I just want to say that's amazing. I myself identify as neurodivergent, and having ADHD has been a huge insecurity of mine growing up, and I guess navigating educational years and then like the workforce and trying to advocate and be transparent about your needs is always been a kind of a challenge for me.
Yeah, yeah, it's tricky, and then if there's layers. So I got my official diagnosis last year. Sometimes I still it's surreal that it's been less than a year. It'll be a year in June,
Mm.
and my life has completely changed. And I had a lot of insecurities. I actually just posted about one is a common comorbidity of ADHD is dyslexia. And
Mm.
so I've been a writer. I've wanted to be a writer my whole life. I've been writing since I learned to write, and writing stories and um, sharing those, but I just didn't feel like I could share them or be a professional writer because I have dyslexia.
Mm.
And so I completely understand those insecurities, but I think one of the beautiful things of community that I found is that when we have supportive communities that help us feel seen, safe, and secure, we can learn to thrive.
100%. And I really appreciate that more of the narrative, or that more people are pushing toward being more inclusive and finding out more information how to support just neurodivergent populations. So I love that. Thanks for mentioning that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
I wanted to get into the topic of you being on a stage last Friday. You were a TEDx speaker, which is So incredible. I don't even know where to start with that, but let me ask you, how did you decide to apply to TEDx?
Oh, well, I wanted probably 15 years ago, and I don't remember which was the first TEDx that I saw or even the first TED Talk, but it was about 15 years ago. I was like,
Mm.
I want to do that. There was something really, I love stories, and so much of actually everything that I do in my business, when it comes to either content creation or, Canva or just helping people with branding, it's all about authentic storytelling.
Mm.
There's some indigenous wisdom in that for me. And so I was fascinated by like that a lot of these TED Talks were just really beautiful stories with really empowering, insightful thoughts. So I wanted to do one, and it would take me 15 years to get the courage to really follow through. So, but America Ferrera's is probably one of my most favorites, and where she talked
Mm.
about her identity as her superpower. And that's once again another space where I was like, oh my gosh, I feel seen. Like, here's this Latina actress, highly successful. She'd won an Emmy at that time, and she's just talking about who she is what makes her brilliant. And
Mm.
I was like, we need more of this. We need more of these messages. And so, yeah.
Here you are. That's great. I have so much admiration for people who I think that just by seeing your content and then listening to your talk, you have listened to your voice and then had the courage to share it with the world. And when I was listening to your talk, we'll get into the topics of it. I was just there's so much admiration in my heart for you. It was incredible. So I know that you talked about many things, but largely based off your identity. Can you go into tell my audience what exactly you spoke about?
Yeah, so I mean, the heart of it is that a lot of times we can put ourselves and each other in boxes. And there is this inherent need to belong as humans. Like, we want to belong. That is very primal to who we are. But I think sometimes society, or what I've seen, is that society puts expectations and, guidelines on what that belonging should look like. And so if I kind of jump to like my neurodivergent identity, is when I didn't realize I love to doodle. I was a doodle note kid. And I remember getting in trouble when I was in middle school because the teacher thought I wasn't paying attention. And it wasn't until I got older, until actually like this in this last year, that I was like, oh no, I listen better when I am engaged in a doodle. And so my talk was a lot about how we can do that. We can put people in boxes that might hurt them, right?
Mm.
So for me, not being able to maybe have that space of doodling meant that I had to focus all my brain energy on like listening, and then I just would be tired, or we talk about the ADHD burnout sometimes, because I'm not having the space to be my best authentic self. So my talk was about breaking some of those boxes and how we can break out of them through conversation, through connection, through listening to learn about people, and through standing up with people and standing up for people, and realizing that none of us fit in the box. We
Yes.
all have beautiful layers of our identities, and that can mean so many different things.
Hmm. The theme of all the speakers for this TEDx event was the being human. And I think you touched upon it really well. There were a couple of stories that you shared about your experience of people trying to make you fit into a box. Do you mind sharing a few of those?
Yeah, yeah. When I was 8 years old, the school wouldn't let me go to school until my mom picked a race and ethnicity box for me. And my mom didn't want to pick just one. They told her she had to pick one. And at that time, legally, you weren't allowed to pick more than one. And you could defer to other. And my mother was like, she didn't feel like other was a appropriate description for me.
Mm-hmm.
So she really advocated for, creating her, her own pathway and my own pathway, and not letting the school define that for me. And then another story that I kind of shared, because I don't want to give all of it away.
Okay.
But of just kind of going to the gym and having two men who didn't look like me like push their benches closer to mine and box me in and try to intimidate me to get me to leave because they didn't feel like I belonged there. And somebody else coming and standing up and saying, actually no, like she belongs here, like it's okay. And just both of these stories kind of remind me of why it's important that we stick up for each other, why community building is important, and creating connected community. Because I've been a part of communities before, where I maybe didn't feel seen and supported. And so I think that there's a difference between that connectedness of community, or that just kind of, I'm raising my hand, I check the boxes so I'm here, as opposed to a community that sees you beyond the boxes.
Mm-hmm. I see. I really appreciated when talking about answering the question, what are you? I believe your mom had said you are all of who you are.
Mm. Yes, that has been, and like honestly, like it's been a little surreal to see even already people quoting me and like recreating, like that's been a big thing on Instagram of people taking lines that I said from the TED Talk and
Mm-hmm.
posting them like with my TEDx picture. It's so cool. But the line that my mom told me, she told me this pretty consistently throughout my childhood, is that I'm not one or the other. I'm all of who I am, because I was constantly asked, not just by the school, but by a lot of people, to pick a side or pick an identity. And my mom was like, that's not a possibility for you because you're all of who you are. And I mean, that's true. Like, I truly don't know where one identity ends and the other begins, because that's the beauty of blending and mixing. I think about that in my art. I'm an artist as well, and I like to paint, and I'm not sitting there going, okay, is this where the blue like starts and the red? Like, we don't do that. We just admire the beauty of it.
Definitely. I've had, in relation to how people try to put us into a box or people into a box, I have had times where, like, at the grocery store, someone stops me and is like, "What are you? You look so exotic." And I'm like, "Oh my goodness." Well, I'm half Filipina and half Irish. And so even like filling out boxes like the SAT, I'm like, what do I put? I'm like half Asian, half white. But I remember having such confusion when I was younger. I'm like, do I choose one box? Can I choose two boxes? There's no simple answer.
There isn't, and I think that that's what so many people really felt and felt, and I mean it. Like I got this outpourings of love and emails of people who, there were tears, and people were really feeling, whether they were feeling empathy for me or kind of in their own grief or processes. But like, I think we all have a story where we have felt put in a box that doesn't, or just that kind of, that layer of identity, I don't want to say crises, but just that uncertainty. I think that there's certain parts of it that are really natural to growing up, But then if you have any sort of, you know, I sometimes say non-traditional, right? In a way of all of these different layers, then you might feel more pressure in how do I reconcile all of that? How do I accept all of my being? And then also, you know, there are unfortunately reasons why closets and masks exist. You know, people might be raised in a space where they don't feel like they can safely be seen. And that is, you know, real for many people. And so when you put all that together, you're, like you said, it's difficult, it's complex. But it's also for each of us to decide and find our own path and find our own way. I think that's why I shared my mother's wisdom, because it grounds me so much through all of that, like all of those things, even all the identities that I just shared about myself. Like, I'm not one this or that or one or the other. I'm kind of all of it, and that's the magic of it.
Mm-hmm. You also shared that we are beyond the box.
We are. Like, I mean, humans, we're really cool. Like, I mean, we do silly things sometimes, but overall, we're really cool. Like, I believe in the goodness of humans.
Mm-hmm.
There are just things that I used to watch this YouTube channel called Faith and Humanity Restored, and like, you would just see really beautiful things. Like, there was, you know, the chain of people who are, you know, ready to kind of catch somebody who might be contemplating ending their life, and like a group of strangers coming up to say, you matter. Just all of those stories used to just really warm my heart, because I really, and I even said that in my talk, I believe in the inherent goodness of people. And I truly do place my faith in the brave ones who are being their authentic selves, who are showing up, who are reminding people that it's okay, that they, you know, might be different. Like, they're standing up when they see injustices or they see people being harassed. Like, I feel like what my mom did was brave, right? To say, I'm not going to fill out this paperwork, but my kid is still going to come to school. Because, like, it's not okay that you tell her that she can't come to school because she doesn't fit in this form. You know? That's where so much of my faith in humanity lies.
Mm-hmm.
And bravery isn't always loud. Sometimes it can be that quiet. I think of my best friend a lot, who that's a lot of her bravery, is this sometimes, like, she's just sat with me, like if I'm going through something, and to quietly, bravely sit with somebody who's going through life when life be lifing, that's bravery too.
Definitely. I think even small things like getting out of bed for the day is
Yes.
brave, especially if like someone's struggling with their mental health.
Mm-hmm.
It can just getting up and feeding yourself and hydrating can be enough to be brave. I had a book, I mentioned it in one of my previous episodes, but my best friend in high school had given me a courage book, and you would write down little things that you did that took courage that day. And I used it for over 3 years, and I would look back, and there were little things like starting my first job as like a little hostess at a restaurant, or talking to this guy that I had a crush on, like all those things. But now, like, my courage and my comfort in putting myself out there has exponentially grown in the years, because I really sought out trying to become more courageous. I did have a question for you. How would you encourage others to become more courageous in their own lives?
Oh, well, for one, I would encourage them to really go after the things that you want, even if it doesn't make sense to those around you. If it makes sense to you, like, go after it, because you there's a reason it calls to you. There's a reason you feel the desire to bring that into your life, whatever it is. If you want to be a writer, if you want to start a podcast, like I think of Heidi Rojas is a musician, and she's on TikTok, and she has this song, like, if you want to write a book, you gotta start a podcast, you know, the magic's in you. Like, it's called Magic Room. And I love that. The other pieces that I would remind people is that just existing is brave. Like, there are some times that this world is really heavy. Like, we have a lot going on right now. And I think just showing up as your imperfect, messy human self is an act of bravery. Sometimes just existing is an act of bravery. And so being more courageous is actually giving love to yourself and accepting yourself as you are, because the more that you do that, the more that you're going to bravely show up. And I think the one thing that came to mind is that fearlessness doesn't mean that there's not fear. It just means that you're going to do it anyway. I was terrified. Like, I was nervous and I was scared to do the talk, and I have had people say I would have never known, which I appreciate. I mean, it shows that the energy and, you know, the delivery were there, but I mean, I was scared, but I did it anyway, and I'm super grateful.
That reminds me, I work in higher ed, and one of the students that work for our department who interns there gave a end of the year presentation about communication skills and how she's grown in them in the past year. And she had mentioned that you do not have to feel confident to begin. The courage will follow. You have to be courageous. The confidence will follow. Like, that's 100%. So I feel like that resonates with what you just said.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, I think and it's interesting you asked this question, because, I hear this, you know, especially a lot this last week of, you know, that's so brave. And, well, yes, I recognize and I absolutely receive that it's brave, but I also like to remind people that I get scared too. I just do things scared. and trust and believe that it's all going to work out. And I trust and believe in myself. I think that that's why, in that order that I talked about, was, you know, a self-love and connecting with yourself is also a part of that confidence building.
Definitely. And the more you push yourself, the more you expose yourself to those kinds of opportunities, the more loving you'll be toward your ability to adapt to them.
Yeah.
Definitely. Well, thank you for that. I wanted to know, how did this experience at TEDx change you?
Oh my goodness. I honestly am still processing that question. There's so many ways that it changed me, but it really made me realize that I don't need to wait 15 more years to go after the things that I want, and that I can do them imperfectly. I can do them scared. But what's important, what I'm going to remember, is that I did them. And so I think that as I look to some of what's next for me, you know, I'm entering into a lot of new and unknown spaces, but I'm taking those lessons that I learned from doing the TED of, I'm going to show up, I'm going to try my best, I'm going to work hard, and this moment is going to be whatever it's going to be, and let it go. And I totally have let it go in my head now. Hi, ADHD. But you just let it go, and you know that you did your best. And I find that anytime that I go into things with that mindset, I am not pleasantly surprised. I'm just overwhelming, shocking, and overwhelmed with all the love and reciprocity that can seem to come back.
Definitely. Well, thank you for that answer. I really appreciate it. I really am glad that people have shown outpourings of love toward you and appreciation. I'm sure it's very overwhelming. But let's say I wanted to know in other ways in your life, how have you felt heard and really seen? Like in simpler ways.
Yeah. I think so. I am a part of this group of jefas, and it's these other Latina entrepreneurs, and they're phenomenal. And one day when we were in Mexico, we were on a retreat in Mexico, like this work retreat, and one of the jefas said, "Do you want to sit on the ground? And are the lights loud?" And I just remember sitting there because I had shared with them that, I'm neurodiverse, but to have somebody come in and be like, because she said, "I just see your eyes keep flickering up to the lights, and I'm wondering if they're bothering you." And I was like, because I just started crying. I was like, "Oh my gosh, you see me," because I'm so used to masking, and I'm so used to, I'll figure this out on my own. I heard a quote once that a lot of times people with ADHD were so used, or even any sort of neurodiversity, autism as well, we're so used to creating our own accommodations that sometimes when people help create those accommodations, we might not know what to do. And that was a total moment of that. But that was where I felt seen and really loved and supported, right?
I think it's important for people to slow down and notice like the humanity in all of us. And you've been mentioning like we don't have to show up perfectly. We just, it's courageous and brave to just exist. So,
yeah, I think having compassion for people with where they're at and what they're going through. I always love this idea of be kind to people because you never know what they're going through. And I'll never forget, I was probably like 18 years old, and I was a bank teller. It was like one of my first like real jobs, I guess, or whatever that means. And this woman came in, and she was so mad, and she was yelling and screaming, and everybody was like, "Oh my gosh, she's so rude." And I don't know why I'm feeling emotional, but she came back the next day and she apologized and she said, "My dad just died suddenly, and I really just feel so lost, and I'm so hurt, and I'm so angry, and I don't know what to do, and I'm so sorry. I know that I shouldn't have taken it out on you guys. That's just where I was." And that experience was like, yeah, you really don't know what people are going through. So like sometimes that kindness, even when maybe others aren't always being kind, she wasn't saying anything that was, super hurtful. She just was very upset.
I love that story. That made my eyes water.
Yeah. I was like, I don't know why. Like, I just was feeling, just that because, it just, I think when you try to move from a space of compassion, understanding that people are going through their own struggles, it just helps you feel more human. Because like I don't know what I would do in that situation. I can't tell you that I might not behave in a similar way because I'm human, and grief it can be really tough, and I don't know. And so I think when we give people that grace and that space from a place of love, because I think the fact that we didn't yell at her, like I helped her. I was myself, which can be really bubbly and polite, is what probably prompted her to come back and be like, "Oh, whoops,"
Yeah.
So
It was also very brave of her to come back and apologize. And grief can just come up in just a variety of ways. So I love that, you guys extended patience and love toward her, because again, you don't know what someone's going through.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's so much like happening in the world. There's a lot of intensity, and people are there's a lot of people out there who are just trying to survive. And the more that we come from this space of compassion, the more that we see people and hear people and stand up for people, maybe then we collectively have a greater chance of moving to a space of thriving. Because
Wow.
it's what we deserve.
It's true. It's true. I really appreciate this conversation so much, so thank you. Victoria, what do you see for yourself moving forward?
Oh, some naps.
Yeah.
I have been on the road since March, so I was gone for a number of weeks, like 6 weeks. I was traveling,
Mm.
and then came back and did the TED, and I would love a little rest and a little space for creativity to kind of recharge. And I have some grand adventures coming up, and I am making some shifts in my business. I'm going to be adding some more offers and some more ways that people can engage with my expertise in storytelling in a lot of different ways. But I'm mostly just excited to sit on a porch in the sun and read. That's the big thing coming up for me right now.
That's wonderful. I'm so excited for you to get that R&R and also be more creative. I think that's so important. It can help you connect deeper with yourself. This is my last question of the day. It's very important to me. What does creativity mean to you?
Oh, I think creativity is the true magic. We're bringing something from one space to another almost magically, because, artists, and that to me, that is so broad. Because I've had people tell me, I'm not an artist, I don't paint or I don't draw. And I'm like, there's so many ways that you can be a creative. I mean, there are, I don't know why cake decorating came into my head. Cake decorating. There's, I think landscaping. Like, I was just in Amsterdam, and the tulip gardens, like, that is art. Like, that is some creativity. So I really think, to answer your question of what does creativity mean to me, it means bringing beauty in all of the different ways that can be, and bringing something from one world to the next, which is truly magical.
Mm-hmm. I love that answer so much. It makes so many little ideas come off of my brain. Uh, it's just, it relate for me. The first idea that comes up to respond to what you just shared is like creativity is courage. Again, it's someone who has insights, who has a voice, and has the bravery to share that with the world. I think the world benefits from that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I love that. You should definitely like put that on a t-shirt or something. I love creativity is courage, because it is like, I have this painting, and it's actually been in multiple galleries like across the world. It's actually in Colorado right now.
Oh.
Of a buffalo. I painted it when I was in college, and it literally lived in my best friend's basement for a number of years. And I remember my best friend being like, "This is so beautiful. Please take it out of my basement." And like I said, it's traveled, like it's been in a gallery in Ohio. It's been displayed in a gallery in Colorado. And so what changed is that I got braver. I was able to come to the space of bravery to share my art with the world in a way, that I felt safe and grounded in myself. But yeah, like, I mean, I hid a lot of my art from the world for a long time.
Yeah. Wow. That's so cool. I would love to see a picture of that buffalo.
Yeah, yeah, it's cool. It's called Decolonizing My School Mascot, and it's a buffalo. I'll send you a
Okay.
copy.
Okay. Oh, that's so fun. I love that. I really appreciate that. And it's a fun fact, a really fun fact. I wanted to say thank you so much for joining me in this conversation today. I really do see like great conversation, like authentic connection as forms of art. So thank you for making, helping me be creative today, and I feel so uplifted by talking with you.
Thank you. Thank you for asking me, and it's an honor as always. And I mean, at the heart of it is stories, right? Like we love stories. We love they really connect us, and that is something that I'd like to believe that is so inherently human and has been a part of us for eons. Is sharing stories to create connection. So thank you for the work that you do.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it, Victoria. I hope you have a great day and an awesome week ahead of you.
I hope you do too, and I hope that you find a little joy and creativity.
Thank you. Likewise. All right, take care. For those of you wondering how to stay connected with Victoria, she can be found on Instagram and TikTok at Wild and Lee. LinkedIn is Victoria Carrington Chávez, and her website is www.lilacaspen.com. Thank you for joining us today.